Hello and welcome to the round so far, brought to you by Amy. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kane Corns. Kane, round one is underway. All 18 sides finally get their chance to have a crack at it. We'll start tonight with a big story though, which comes at GMHBA Stadium. Gee, St Kilda made a game of it, but the Cats just held on.
They did. It looked like they had it signed, sealed and delivered, didn't it, towards the end of the fourth quarter, but the Saints didn't give up. They kicked 3 in a row and you thought, oh, hang on, game on here. So here's what we're seeing from the Saints. Max King takes this mark. It is on from this moment with a couple of minutes to go. They only go down by a point and then they're chasing the game. And Geelong here, good enough to hold on through some individual brilliance. I thought this courage in the air from Dangerfield as the exit kick comes out. He's in the right spot at the right time to then compose himself with all the experience, take the full 30 seconds off the clock and swing that one back in from left to right. Sealed the deal for the Cats with a really important win. Great game of footy. Two sides that we're going to be seeing a lot more of throughout 2024.
A big win for the Cats. The Saints look slick on occasions, Kane, but scoring's been such an issue for them over the last 12 months. They ranked 15th for scoring last year. Only mustered 9 goals tonight.
Yeah, so there's some of their numbers that are going to cause Ross some headaches once again. 18th scores per inside 50 last year, 15th for scoring, 10th inside 50 differential, and that was the case again tonight. So 44 entries just not going to cut it against a good side. Yeah, they were efficient when they went in there, 23 scores from 44 entries, but they're going to have to give their forwards more opportunities. So Membry looked really sharp tonight, so there's one that perhaps we weren't expecting to have a big year, but he looks good. But in the end, the modern game says that you need to challenge your opposition on offence, and I just don't think St Kilda do it well enough. They defend really well, but they can't score. One aspect of their game is good, the other not so.
The Cats have found another one up forward in Ollie Dempsey. They plucked him from nowhere in his draft year. He was fantastic tonight. 15 disposals, 9 score involvements and 3 goals.
So why do they always stay up the top and why don't they ever rebuild? Is because they have success, they don't get access to the draft. Their development program must just be outstanding because you can pluck guys like this from the draft. They sit on your list for a year or two and then they come in and they're ready to go. Look at the sidestep, the power, the speed and the finishing ability. So they've got another one. So you get some youth into the side. Ollie Henry's ready for a big year. Bruin, I thought, had some good moments tonight and then he can do that. So I don't know where they've been hiding them all, but they found another one that they'd be really excited about.
Do you know what else helps? When you've got the best player in the competition doing stuff
like this. Is he the best player?
Jeremy Cameron, he'd be very close, I reckon. Certainly one of the most influential. This is our moment of the weekend so far. Have a look at this goal. Kicks it basically to himself, gets it back and then slots in the boundary.
Going to be hard to beat for goal of the year already in round one. Now, you took the words out of my mouth a little bit because we'd sort of forgotten about him somewhat because he was a bit injured last year, but he started the season like this last year. He was on fire and we're standing up here going, can he kick 100 goals? That's what we were saying about Jeremy Cameron sort of 6-7 weeks in last year, but brilliant. So I really like the look of their forward line. Henry, I mentioned, Dempsey, they got the smalls around them close and Myers and Stengel, I know, who subbed out. But the balance that they've got, not as reliant on Tom Hawkins, who will do his thing like he did tonight. But I think Bontempelli's the best player in the game. I think Jeremy Cameron's second.
Let's go to People First Stadium now, where another game where it looked like it was just about all over. Gold Coast had this in control. They were 36 points up in the last quarter until the Crows kicked 5 unanswered goals to finish this match.
Unbelievable. Adelaide had 1 goal 10 minutes into the third quarter and then they've kicked 5 in the last quarter in really tricky conditions, and it was that man Rochelle who lit the fuse for them. Saligo came on as a sub. Gee, he played with some spark and some flair. Jake Saligo should never be left out of the side again. Play him in the 22, not as a sub. There's Rank, and he got going against his old side. And they had their moment. Look at this from Berry. Go back and mark the footy and have a shot. 4 goal to draw it on the siren. But unfortunately for the Crows, he wasn't able to do that. I thought they were poor though. So don't let the score dictate your review of the Crows' performance. They were poor for 2.5 quarters. They didn't play to the conditions. They weren't there with the mindset of really getting their knees dirty like the Gold Coast midfielders did. And that's the reason they lost this game of footy. Not any luck in the end. So I think Matthew Nicks, when he reviews the first 2.5 quarters, really disappointed with the mindset of his players.
The Suns are now 2-0 under Dimmer. Are they doing something different tactically? You picked this out in the game where they continually just handball backwards inside 50.
Well, that's where the numbers are. So their ability to win that ball and row was enormous again, double digits in clearances, but then to feed the ball back, knowing that you've got a teammate, that's from a forward stoppage. Once again, this is no fluke or luck. That's Sexton coming up from half back at a stoppage, hits the post there, could have easily gone through. But I saw this time and time again in tough conditions. There's Rail again. He knows where his numbers are. That kick from Flanders is absolutely elite. And then again, Miller, under pressure, you know where your numbers are, and that is behind. But I just thought they played the conditions beautifully. What they did, they surged out of stoppage, and then their forwards, I thought Beveridge just brought enormous heat on the opposition, forced a turnover and score. So it's been a really strong start, albeit they'll like to address the run-on of goals. It happened last week and it happened again tonight. But they've got a pretty soft draw, the Suns, to go 2-0. They're in a great spot.
I reckon we put Adelaide's away record under Matthew Nicks under the spotlight last year. One game so far this year, a defeat, but this is their record at the Adelaide Oval under Nicks and then interstate. Doesn't pay for good reading.
No, it's not good. So good teams are going to have a better record than that away from home. Now, they've said it's finals this year. They're ready to go. So don't worry about young players at Adelaide. Don't worry about getting games into play. They think they are ready to go to play finals now, and that's not going to cut it. So to go up to Gold Coast and not even be in the game for the first three quarters, really disappointing. I think there's only room for one of those two teams in the 8.
Yeah.
And Gold Coast essentially have got 8 points from that game against Adelaide. But that's something Nixie and the team are well aware of and something they haven't been able to rectify yet.
Let's head to the MCG now, where Essendon just crept over the line against Hawthorn, and it was done through their dominance in the midfield. They kicked 10 goals from stoppage. Archie Perkins got 8 clearances throughout the course of the afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, this was, once again, a good game of footy to watch. This was the difference. Centre bounce in particular, like their ability to come out the front of the centre bounce. And every time it looked like Hawthorn were going to get on a run-on, Essendon went back to the centre bounce with a younger group. So it was Setterfield, it was Perkins, it was Durham who had gone in there. Watch Durham here. Look at this sidestep. Bang. He's arrived. Yeah. Perkins has arrived. And you think, okay, well, it's not Shield, it's not Parrish. You're not as reliant on merit. There's Caldwell, another young player, front of the stoppage. Gresham, new recruit, and does damage in the front half. So Sam Mitchell will be really disappointed because his midfield group is strong. But on the flip side, that's where Essendon won the game of footy. Some areas that the Bombers will need to address on review. They're still easy to score against, and they still can't defend backline transition. But centre bounce was elite today.
What do you make of those new recruits? We saw that Jade Gresham goal there, but Todd Goldstein had an impact in the ruck. Ben Mackay takes 5 intercept marks down back. Xavier Dersman did his thing.
I thought they were huge. Gresham and Mackay for me. I thought they were huge. So Mackay takes 5 intercept marks, and not only that, he completely blankets Mitch Lewis from the Hawks. So he's one of the better key forwards in the game, and he dominated against him and did his thing offensively. And then I thought Gresham provided a real spark. He was hungry. He finished well. His ball use was good. So they would have been pretty happy with those efforts first up. And then Goldstein did what he was brought in to do.
A new look forward line for Hawthorn as well, and it had its moments. Nick Watson, who was their first pick in the draft last year, Malbior Chol, who they brought in through the trade period, Jack Ginnivan, another one who kicks this goal and gets his Hawks career off to a great start. For me, though, I look at this and think that the way that Hawthorn's smalls were able to impact, Essendon brought in Jake Kelly to fill that small defender void in 2021 when they got torn apart by Cody Waitman in that elimination final. He's playing on a wing now. They still haven't been able to find it. Andrew McGrath's not that. I'm not sure if Nick Martin's that.
It's a worry for them. Yeah, and Reid went off, so Kelly had to go back and play a bit taller. But Ginnivan was enormous in the first half. He completely drifted out of the game. Maybe he needs a shorter sleeve Guernsey in hot conditions and you won't overheat. That's ridiculous that he wore that. But anyway, it was terrific in the first half, drifted out. But I love the way that Sam Mitchell coaches his small forwards. He allows them to play with freedom. Yeah. So if you can't get it, go up the field. I don't care. Go into defensive 50, get yourself in, then reset. So Dylan Moore was huge. He's been doing it for a couple of years. We love him on this show, Dylan Moore. So I really like the way Hawthorn are going. I thought they were strong. Apart from their stoppage stuff today, there's a lot of positives to take out of it. And they're just must watch. If you're a Hawthorn fan, okay, we're not going to win every week. We're going to upset some good sides, but we're going to be pretty entertaining to watch.
Do you reckon Mason Redmond has anything to worry about for this incident on Jai Newcombe? He's such an important player for the Bombers.
No, I don't. Not if George Hewitt and Lachie Neale both got off. So expect, I don't know, what is it, a $3.5 fine, which will sting, but he'll be playing next week. All
right, let's get to our Amy Clangers now. Who covers Clangers? Amy does. We'll start at the MCG where Luke Bruce... Jack Gunson's just got back to the football club. You've got to get out of the way
mate. I can't believe it. I mean, they've got nearly 900 goals between them, these two, and that is one that Luke will never get back, and this hurts. Wet conditions round one, and you cop that.
That's just about one of the best Falcons.
But he
we've
didn't
seen in a
even
long time.
flinch. Like, he must be the toughest human in the earth. Did not even flinch. He was big again tonight, Witsy.
Now have a look at this. Rowan Marshall lost his shoe. He brought it back up to the stoppage, and Graham Myers just said, "No, you'll be seeing that in a couple of minutes."
Can I
Because I'm throwing that
just
30
say,
metres away.
excellent umpiring to then
I
stop
didn't mind
play
that.
and then bring the boot back and allow the player to put it back on.
And how's this? The ball hit Spider Cam, and I think it caught everyone by surprise because under the rules of the game, that should be a stoppage. If it hits the camera equipment, it should be a stoppage. But I don't think anyone noticed it. There was a few bemused
Four
players
umpires
out
out
there.
there,
As well.
not one of them knew that rule.
All right, well, Amy Clangers for Good is back for season 2024. Amy is donating $10 to community footy for every clanger recorded over selected rounds, with 8 lucky local clubs across the season taking home up to $15,000. To put your club in the running, head to the URL on your screens now and tell us what the clanger donation would mean for your local club. Let's stay at the MCG Friday night footy where Sydney upset the reigning premier Collingwood. It was done off the back of them just punishing the Pies from turnover.
Yep, they kicked 78 points from intercepts and they completely shut them down. I can't remember Collingwood using the ball as badly as this. Now, part of that is that pressure. That's a leap from Hayward, turnover, bang, goal, and you love it. And that's infectious. That gets everyone going. But, yeah, that's where Collingwood have built their game. Outnumber in the back half and then go to Pendlebury. I mean, he's kicked it straight into an unmarked opponent from 10 metres away. Never ever see that. And Logan McDonald is the beneficiary of that. So, I mean, just their ball use, again, as I said, if you play against Collingwood, you've got to be prepared to play with this heat. This is the difference between winning away from home at the MCG, where they never lose Collingwood, and that performance from Sydney in all facets of the game I thought was outstanding. And I reckon it was a warning to the rest of the competition that we're serious. We're a serious football side.
You mentioned Logan McDonald was the beneficiary there. He was a couple of times across the course of the night. Have a look over there, Kane. There was a couple of times when we just got a couple of Joe the Gooses over the top, based on the fact that they were able to punish the way Collingwood sets up defensively.
Yeah, so you always say, like, you end up with the goal here from the goal. So you go, how did that happen? Well, it's the work up the field. And the Collingwood have some moments there to kill the footy, and they don't, and then he's the one there. But Hoskin Elliott, far too far off his direct opponent. We see Moore do that often. That's been the thing that stood out for Collingwood in the first 2 rounds. Their defence has been poor. Missed tackle there. If you nail that tackle, the ball stops in the middle of the ground and then it's up the other end. If you don't, you end up with Logan McDonald with another Joe the Goose in the goal square. So it's the work up the field that really affects the defenders in the back 50. And
you mentioned the missed tackles. There are a number of them over the course of the night from the Pies. This is a big reason why they're 0-2 at
Have a look at this. So this is the defence that they've come to pride themselves on. But how many times did Sydney... They toyed with them. Warner did it about 10 times. Like, come on, you're going to tackle me? You can't. It was arrogance almost from Sydney. Like, okay, there's a ground ball. It's Campbell. Like, Campbell weighs 75 kilograms. They couldn't tackle him. Okay, we'll just dance around a couple in the middle of the ground. Like, they are toying with Collingwood, who rate themselves defensively. You've got an arm on them. Pin them, tackle them. You can't. Ball's gone there. Mason Cox, 110 kilos, he couldn't hold it up there, and then away you go. So a couple of these missed tackles led to goals down the field. Far too easy. Schultz will be disappointed with that. So in terms of the amount of missed tackles, I haven't seen a Collingwood side tackle that poorly for a while.
And this Sydney moved to 2-0 on the season now. This is a Sydney midfield that's without Cal Mills, their captain. He's out for much of the season, as we know. Luke Parker breaks his arm on the eve of the campaign. Taylor Adams is out as well. Isaac Heaney's gone in there and been great. Errol Goulden and Chad Warner, we know what they're like, but they're doing it all without 3 very important players.
I just think they're so balanced as well. So what Gold Coast midfield doing is outstanding, but this as well, and it's frightening to think the numbers. I'm not sure Taylor Adams gets back into this side. That's the brutal reality of it. Jordan's got the spot now, but you don't even Rowbottom there. Now, Rowbottom's not going to get those numbers, but what Rowbottom brings defensively is really important to this group. So well balanced. They addressed that area in the off-season. As I said last week, when Sydney lost last year, we stood here and said their midfield was poor.
Yeah.
Their midfield is flying, and that's the reason they're winning at the moment.
Let's head to NG Stadium now, where the Giants moved to 2-0 on the season as well, with a big win over the Kangaroos. Just like Sydney did, they punished them from turnover.
Yeah, they did, and this is going to be the issue. So you want to play North ball? Well, be prepared to get scored against heavily. And this is from the first minutes of the game where this is too easy. So the time has come for us to be a little bit harder on North. And the pats on the back for getting close against a good side, not going to cut it, I don't think. I don't think for North supporters, they go, okay, good effort, we tried for a half. It's not going to cut it. Letting them waltz through the middle of the ground and chain like it's a practice drill is not going to cut it. And half a game of effort isn't either. So, look, there were some positives, and we'll get to those shortly for North, but defensively, poor for far too long.
Yeah, it was weird that they sort of went toe-to-toe for a long period of time when it wasn't working. Jesse Hogan is our Saturday star this week. He was fantastic again. He's got 10 goals from 2 games to start the campaign, 6 goals today. He looks the player that we all thought he was going to be when he broke onto the scene at Melbourne.
That's a good story. I mean, a way to turn your career around. Injuries, you think some disciplinary stuff off the field, 3 clubs, and now he's producing this. So resilience is the word that springs to mind. But for him and for the Giants, he doesn't need to do this every week because Cadman will have his day. Riccardi was much better today after being quiet last week. Toby Green's kicked 1 goal in 2 weeks and they've won 2 games and they've beaten Collingwood. Like, how good is that? Because he's going to get going. Kicked 60 goals last year. And then you've got Brown. So the options that they've got in the 4, he must be loving life. Jesse Hogan with getting the 3rd, 4th, sometimes the best, but not always. And he's about to sign a 2-year contract extension, isn't he?
Yes, as reported on afl.com.au, close to a 2-year deal, which continues his fantastic story at the Giants. You mentioned there were some positives for the Kangaroos. Pick number 2, Colby McKercher, and pick number 4, Zane Dersma. They were both fantastic on their debuts. Dersma kicked 2 goals. McKercher gets 22 touches off half-back. They look like they're going to hit this level hard. Yeah, love both of them, really. I mean, they've picked a couple of rippers here. The composure there, nothing better than a silky smooth left footer. Well, maybe a small forward who can do this in the air. Maybe that is, and go back and finish. So he's going to love the big moment. Dersma, it's going to be a difficult position for him to play across half forward with limited opportunities, but the composure of both of them, and highlighted there with that kick. North fans are, they've got some weapons in their side now. And you chuck in Sheasel and Wardlaw as well, and a couple of others. So they're in good hands. Some really unfortunate news late in that game. Josh Goda, likely his season over. So innocuous just as he went to take off. So a really disappointing day for the Kangaroos. We'll get to the MCG, Thursday night footy. Gee, it was a slog of a game between Carlton and Richmond, but the Blues just held on late. They kicked the first 3 goals of the final term, and that proved to be enough. Yep, the Blues are the first team to win 6 straight by under a goal. Collingwood did it by under 7 points in 2022. So, I mean, they've taken it to the next level. I mean, and I don't think it's, like Collingwood, I don't think it's luck, because we'll highlight this from Curnow. So they knew exactly what they could do without the runner going out. That's a great position for Charlie Curnow to be. He's definitely the right player to be behind the ball because of his athleticism, and he can win it on the ground. So that's in the air. And look at the positioning here. It's perfect. Just reading it, hoping there's pressure coming up the field, forcing a long, high, wide kick, bang, spoil it, save the day again. So it's no mistake that they keep winning these close ones, but not ideal for the Blues fans. This is their last 6 wins, going all the way back to round 22 last year. 4 points, 4 points, 6 points, 2 points, 1 point, 5 points. They wouldn't mind just an easy afternoon, would they, Carlton fans? Well, they'll get it at some point, but to think you can go to Brisbane and win in opening round, and then hold off Richmond, who were pretty brave with the injuries that they had in round 2, and they got a bye coming up as well. They'll get some numbers back. Wiedering, hopefully Walsh, fingers crossed, Motlop, Hollands, these types of players are really going to help. Well, it wasn't the best looking night for Carlton, but one thing they did do well was their tackling intensity across the course of the night set the tone for them getting back into this game. You don't always have to be the sexiest team in the world, but if you can do this, you give yourself a chance. Look at that from Will. You love to see that. So we've just highlighted Collingwood and their inability to lay a glove on Sydney. This is the difference. So this is what you want to see. It doesn't take talent. That is a huge tackle from Newman. Williams is in every one of these clips. He was everywhere. So you love it. It doesn't matter who it is. Some of their lesser lights, even the big ruckman, thought De Koning had a big last quarter after Nankervis probably got him in the first 3. So that effort and intensity, you love to see it if you're a Blues fan. Now, there was a bit of a flashpoint late in the game when Charlie Curnow really should have kicked the goal first and foremost. This ball goes forward. He's tackled on the goal line. It goes through. They do a score review. But, Kane, one thing I do want to get to here, because it was a bit confusing on the night. I know Carlton officials after the game were scratching their heads a little bit. Let's have a listen to the field umpire have a chat around this decision review.
I believe it's a behind. Can we check that the ball was kicked by the attacker?
Yeah. The umpire's call is a point, and it'll be holding the ball for no kick. If it comes back as a point, it's going to be a free kick to you for holding the ball. Mark's here.
So I guess the confusion there, certainly from mine, I spoke to people at Carlton on Thursday night, was if the call is holding the ball, you can't review that.
No.
It goes through. And the ramifications, the potential ramifications for this were the ball went deep into Richmond's half late in the game. With about 20 seconds left, it was on the top of the goal square. If they had to kick the goal, it was a 5-point margin, so it puts them in front. If it's called a behind, it's 6 points, and the worst Carlton walk away with is a draw. So they were a bit frustrated after the game at the decision. I spoke to the AFL on Friday morning. The AFL's call is that the calls between the goal umpire of a behind and the field umpire of holding the ball are simultaneous. Neither one overrules the other, so you can do a score review.
The problem was the field umpire never paid holding the ball.
Exactly. Well, that, and also I think once the field umpire makes the call, I think that should be the decision.
But he didn't make a call, so it had to be a behind. The field umpire never made a call.
Yeah.
He could have overridden the goal umpire and said, nah, we don't need to review it because that's holding the
Yeah.
ball. I saw it.
And
But
if it does
he
hit the
didn't.
boot, they make those mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I think everyone just overlooks it at the end
We
of the
just
day.
don't review field umpiring decisions. First time I've seen it.
It
Bizarre.
was a bit of a strange one. Some really unfortunate news for Richmond as well, with Josh Gibcus, their young defender, going down with an ACL injury. He will miss the remainder of the campaign. So really unfortunate news there for the Tigers. Right, let's look ahead to Sunday's fixtures now. It all starts with Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs. Port Adelaide take on West Coast later in the afternoon, and then round one finishes with Fremantle and the Brisbane Lions. I want to get now to Kane's questions. We put it out on social on our Twitter account at AFL.
And people were nice. As always, people are nice out
They're
there.
always nice to you on social, aren't they,
Thanks for the love on Twitter. Loved it.
Well, James Durkin wants to know which Sunday game is more likely to have an upset and why. What do you reckon?
Well, I don't even know who the favourite is for the Western Bulldogs
Yeah, it's a
Melbourne.
close
So
one.
that is could go either way.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide will beat West Coast comfortably. So I think the most likely is Fremantle to beat Brisbane without Lachie Neale at home. The coach has just got a 1-year contract extension, strange in itself. So if I had to pick it, I'd go the Dockers.
Love that from you, Kane. Love your work across the course of the night. We'll see you next week on The Round So Far.